Hey everybody. I wanted to share a story from the Yogavasishta this week. Um, the Yogavasishta is a very long series of tales told by the sage Vasishta to the young Lord Rama. So Rama is an avatar of God, but he is also a young man, and he is only coming to the knowledge of Brahman and the self and his own true nature over the course of these tales. And Vasishta is also teaching him about his role in the world and his need to fulfill it. There's a reason he has come down. And so the tale is valuable for us because it teaches us something about how to be in the world and also how to be um, in our highest self, if you will. So here's the story, and it's the story of King Janaka. So Janaka was a learned and a loving king, a realized person. He appears in all kinds of different tales. He is in the Upanishads, he's mentioned in the Gita, he's in the Ashtavakra Samhita, and also here he is in the Yoga Vasishta. So he is the sort of king, the sort of person whose presence alone causes others' hearts to open with love. He is that person, right? But one day he is listening to sages chanting about this bliss of Brahman, which is attainable through the purest awareness beyond the subject-object relationship. And I want to just read this because it's beautiful. This is what he hears. We contemplate that self, which reveals itself as the pure experience of bliss when seer comes into contact with the seen without division or conceptualization. We contemplate the self in which the objects are reflected non-volitionally once the divided experience of subject-object and the intention or volition that created this division have all ceased. We contemplate that light that illumines all that shines, the self that transcends the twin concepts of is and is not, and which therefore is in the middle of the two sides, as it were. We contemplate that reality in which everything exists, to which everything belongs, from which everything has emerged, which is the cause of everything and which is everything. We contemplate the self, which is the very basis of all language and expression, being the Alpha and the Omega, which covers the entire field from Ah to Ha, and which is indicated by the word Aham, meaning I. And so King Janaka, he hears this, and it throws him into a state. It shakes him to the core, right? Why has he remained attached to this life? Why has he existed in this way when there is this higher reality, when there is this higher bliss? Why should he be attached to a world which is transitory and is full of suffering? Why should he be bound when gods and trinities have passed in and out of being millions and millions of times? What is there about this life that he should be attached to it? Nothing on heaven or earth should bind him. The presence of this higher self should be his sole goal. And so he goes from this sort of shaken state to beginning to meditate upon this Atman and renouncing the world. And so he starts to find that inner peace that passes all understanding, that peace when you start to rise above desire and fear and anger. But then his bodyguard comes to him and says, it's time to perform your royal duties. Your court is waiting, the sages are waiting, your bath is waiting, everything is waiting for him. But he refuses to go. He says, all of this is nothing. What difference does it make to him whether these things happen or not? He's, after all, the Supreme Self. He is not some king. What use is a kingdom to him? But he contemplates further on this as he's looking at the fact that he has no more desire for these actions and that there is no need for him to perform them. And there's a kind of a freedom there. There's also no attachment to them. There's no revulsion to them as well. And so he realizes that on a second level, what non-attachment is. That non-attachment is not simply refusing to act or not acting. It means acting without that desire or fear. And that when you do act without that desire or fear, when you do act without attachment, it is a kind of non-acting, right? You are not acting in the same way. And so he begins to attain to a kind of equanimity. He's able to see everything as it is. Things appear to him as they truly are rather than how he would want them to be, or the way his fear sort of um, impinge upon him or earlier. So he does his duty even when there's no benefit to him. And as he acts in this way, as he acts without desire, anger, and fear, his actions begin to purify his own intellect. And so, unclouded by this, his intelligence, his wisdom, his vijnana starts to arise without taint. It starts to function both as something higher and the present duty in front of him. Vasishta refers to this kind of wisdom as a boat that carries one across troubles. Without it, you are bothered by even small things, small difficulties. With it, you are capable of crossing the sea of sorrow all alone and without help. And he sums it up in two quotes that I wanted to share here. If one engages in constant self-inquiry and sees the ever-changing nature of the world, in due time one will attain this self-knowledge just as Janaka did. And then a grander statement of the whole thing. O Rama, live in this world with unlimited vision, having firmly rejected all limitation. Inwardly be free from all desires and hopes, but outwardly do what has to be done. Examine everything and seek only that which is not limited or finite, and live in this world constantly contemplating the infinite, without entertaining any hope in your heart, yet living as if you are full of hopes. Live in this world with your heart calm and cool, behaving outwardly like everyone else, inwardly giving up all notions of I am the doer, yet engaging yourself in all activities outwardly. Thus live in this world, O Rama, completely free from the least trace of the ego sense. So I hope there is something there to build an insight out of, and I will see you very soon. Take care.